We're recording.
Wow, that was a very dramatic intro. Craig, dude, Craig is
Yeah,
like
he's like that.
he's one for the theatrics.
Cheers, Craig.
Um anyway, but what I was saying earlier is YouTube makes things so much easier to learn nowadays. I almost think our whole like education system could change because of how easy it is, how much more easy it is to learn things from YouTube.
Oh
That
yeah.
was
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
my
What about
thoughts
like
earlier.
Khan Academy?
Yeah, well, I just from my experiences going through school, I'm pretty sure I learned more from YouTube than I did from my actual teachers or professors. I think just YouTube makes a better platform for learning. And that might just be me. I don't know if everyone's like that, but it's just so much easier for me to learn things off of YouTube. And it has like that visual aspect that teachers can't do, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very useful.
It's useful too because you could learn things like both academically that have to do with school or just like what we were talking about earlier with audio equipment. Or I learned a lot of volleyball stuff and a lot of rock climbing stuff from YouTube. Just you get to learn what you want to learn as well as learning academic stuff that you're required to learn for school. So it's just such a good medium to learning anything.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like, you want to learn one skill, go, you start finding the channels. Typically, the more useful ones have more like likes or they somehow rise to the top. I mean, it doesn't always happen, but you find some good ones that have risen to the top and then you can subscribe. And then suddenly they're just kind of suggesting things for you to learn when you didn't even really set out to, but then that stuff can even like benefit you, like that knowledge of like, I don't know, active versus passive pickups that I just kind of passively picked up.
And then that's how you get lost down the YouTube rabbit hole.
Yeah. Like, it was kind of fun. Andy set me up with FL Studio, and I would always be overwhelmed by those kind of apps. Like, man, there's so much to learn. I can't even do a simple thing without like a degree. Like, it's what it feels like. But then, I just started following YouTube channels and found one that I liked. And when you just accumulate all how to do all the little things, then suddenly I feel like I understand the software a lot better. And now I want to start learning more like specialized things I could do with it.
Right. And it's so easy
Yeah.
to like categorize things and um just with how channels work, you could things kind of go together with certain subjects and other subjects. And it amazes me how YouTube is because of how many like fields of study you could find online. And I don't know, it's cool how much is provided on there. I almost think because we're in a situation now in the quarantine thing and teachers are kind of being forced to learn how to do everything virtually and online anyway. I'm kind of hoping that during this time period, someone somewhere gets smart on how to kind of modify or change the education system in a way that is geared more towards virtual learning because I just think it's so much easier to learn stuff off of YouTube.
Yeah, it is cool also when you have like intrinsic motivation to learn something on your own, and it's sometimes it doesn't feel like as much of a chore. I mean, for schooling, you do have to learn things that you might not want to sometimes, but yeah,
Yeah,
just
no, that's
sometimes.
actually true. And that's been a question I've been asking myself ever since I kind of started noticing that I was a more academic student than others, or that other people were more academic students than I was. And I've always wondered, like, where does that motivating factor come from? Like, what makes students more excited about learning or more willing to learn things? Kind of a desire to go out of their own way to learn things and figure things out on their own versus, more passive learners or students that don't feel that drive or that passion or that motivation to enjoy the process of learning. And I never understood where that came from for me because I absolutely love learning new things. And
Yeah, yeah,
just the process of picking up something so foreign, but you kind of want to figure it out. And then you learn like one small thing about that. And then that kind of opens up three more paths. And then you could go down one of those. And then that opens up more avenues. And you keep like learning interesting things you didn't even know existed about this whole new world or activity or whatever you're learning about. Kind of like what you were talking about, the suggestion videos off to the side after you finish a YouTube video, and you just keep kind of clicking on those, and that takes you somewhere else, which naturally takes you somewhere else. And um,
yeah,
that's like one of the most exciting things about learning for me is approaching a topic that I've have no knowledge about whatsoever that seems so foreign to me, and just slowly scratching the surface until you learn enough about it to kind of you widen that like cloud of knowledge on your own, and then it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And usually I try to move on to the next thing, pick up something new, and then move on to something else and pick up something new, and you just kind of get habit out of learning new things. I don't know.
yeah.
How about you guys? What made you um like motivated to learn certain things or in school? Or I know Andy, you're super into computer science. Where does that
Oh.
like drive passion
Yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking about that, and it is hard to answer, but I think one part of what kind of motivates me to learn more is that I know anything I learn, I'll get to use it. I'll get to use it in my own projects. So I do a lot of projects, and just kind of on the side, and it's really helpful to know these like tricks and these techniques that other people have proven to work, and they're just kind of giving it to you for free, and you get to just go and use it in your own work. So for me, it's kind of, I would say, a little bit selfish. I don't want to say selfish, but more of like standing on the shoulders of giants. Because I don't think you can learn everything just by experimentation and trial and error. Or you can, but it just takes a really long time. So I'm always
Yeah.
trying to like learn about things that have been proven to work, and see if they could work for me.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Explain what the phrase standing on the shoulders of giants means.
Oh yeah, so that's like you go find like a really high place and you find wait for a giant, you just hop on his shoulders, let him
Ah, so
ride
it's
around the. No, I just kind
yeah,
of
like
does a little joke
waiting for
there.
people before you to do all the heavy lifting and you kind of profit off of that or
No,
benefit
the
from that.
yeah. Are you familiar with that phrase?
I've heard that phrase before, but I wanted to elaborate on it, that
Oh yeah.
concept more.
Uh, I guess you could think of like giants being the really like standout scientists. I don't know, Albert Einstein or like
The PhDs.
yeah, all those people from history. They're considered giants, I guess, because of how much they've accomplished. So they're just, I don't know why they call them giants actually, but you're using their height. Like the main thing is their height. They're a lot higher than you, so you get to stand on them and benefit from their
Achievement.
growth and their achievement. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a selfish thing. You know, I guess there's got to be
Definitely a
some
useful
sense.
thing.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't
I
think
guess.
there's anything wrong with it. That's just how humans work. The only way to get somewhere is by trusting the work that other people before you have already done and then building off of that.
Okay. I'm okay with that. It just
Yeah.
always worries me that, I don't go through the whole process of growing the way they did. But
Yeah,
sometimes you can't,
well, we all have our own paths of growing. It
There you
would be
go.
kind of redundant and useless if we had to start point zero like everyone else did. I mean, humanity wouldn't progress that way if that.
That's true. Well, the way I see it is you're allowed to stand on the shoulders of a giant, but then you yourself have to go and do something with that. So that's like half of it, and then you have to, so to speak, become your own giant.
Yeah,
Right.
continue it further.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think that's the important part, is doing something with that foundation. But yeah, that's me. That's how I've been motivated to learn.
I like how you're talking about the little projects that you do, but I'm so curious is why do some people do that? Like, where's the driving factor between the people who are willing to projects for themselves and work on
Oh, I see.
something and benefit out of something versus people who don't? Like, there's a lot of people like us, we've all given ourselves our own assignments and projects to do, and we get that satisfaction from completing that. And I've
Okay.
always wondered, like, why doesn't everyone have that, or why is it so hard for some people to find like joy and passion, learning and trying things? And that's always been one of the most curious things about human nature.
Mhm.
That's just been a
Yeah.
question I've had ever since I was really little. It's like, why do I enjoy working on projects just for the heck of it? Like, I'm not getting paid to do
Yeah.
these things, and like,
I think
why do
that
I enjoy it versus other people who just, I don't know, watch TV or go on social media.
the Fortnite games.
The Fortnite games. Yeah, what about you, Logan? What do you have to add about that? What kind of gets you going when you do your own projects? I know you're into a lot of music stuff, recording, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. I don't know. I had some thoughts like about what you guys are saying, and on the note of like, why do you do it and others don't? One thing that comes to mind for me is like being in a flow state. I wonder if that's a common factor between you and Andy, and perhaps myself at
Hmm.
times. Like,
Yeah, elaborate on that concept a little bit more. I kind of like that.
yeah, just like when the task at hand is like as close to your ability as it can be. I think like a flow state is when your ability like meets the task at hand, or like the challenge. So like if you're doing something that's very easy for you, then your brain is not stimulated and you get bored. And if you attempt to do something that you can't comprehend, then you get frustrated and like might feel like you can't understand what's going on. But when you like when it is a match, then you end up like in a flow state, and that's like one of the best like mental states we can be in. And sometimes I think about like, yeah, Andy just lit a graphic and it's great. Um
He sent a graphic in Discord. Oh, nice.
yeah, yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
It's where yeah, the challenge level is highest and the skill level is highest. And it's like a very optimal state to be in. And I think anybody is most likely gonna be happy if they have found a flow state. A flow state can be found anywhere too, like, it doesn't have to be school, it could be, like, running, it could be playing a video game, it could be doing a project, and I feel like the last, like, couple weeks, I've been getting in that kinda state when I've been working on these, like, music projects because they've been a lot of fun, and it's like, I have a certain understanding of music, and I guess, like, my ear understands, like, what sounds good and what I want to hear, and then once, like, I'm getting more familiar with, like, the software, it's like, yeah, my ability is starting to meet the task at hand, and then the hours just go by, and I feel like, "Wow," and I accomplished something. So, yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
I like that. Okay, Forrest
Yeah.
Gump. Yeah, that's interesting, and I think I definitely want to do more research on that because I've definitely heard of that concept before, and I know that you mentioned it before. And it interests me too that I think everyone is capable of reaching a flow state, but everyone has different levels of what stimulates them. And I think that you could even narrow that down to genetics. Just naturally, some people are born in a way where they just need stimulated all the time, and then some people are born a different where it doesn't take a lot for them to be stimulated. And um, I think that's just the beauty of how everyone's different. Is some people have higher levels of flow states, and other people, need as much stimulus in order to obtain that flow state. And I think that's where differing levels of how much your passion or how like dedicated to completing an assignment or a project you are, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
So that'd be something cool to look into a little more, like
Hmm.
on my own time, I guess, is like the biochemistry behind that in the brain, or like how our brain attains that flow state.
Yeah,
Wow.
and one thing I wanna say, like, that is kinda tied in is, like, how I've realized, like, I'm a trombone player, and I I like to always be involved in at least one group, but sometimes it's several at a time. Sometimes it's like a gig that happens for a couple of weeks. I find myself in so many different settings of musicians in like the span of a year and many different genres of music being represented. And some of the ones that I'm in most consistently are just ones that are like, community or like school groups, like a community orchestra. And what I realize is the ones where like the community orchestra it consists of a lot of people that aren't even necessarily trying that hard, or like some people are just there because it's like a nice atmosphere and it's nice, but they're not all like trying their best. And I'll notice that I get kind of bored because it's like, and I my theory is that it's because I'm not in a flow state. It's like I'm not being pushed to like play my best. I mean, I try to play my best, but it's not really it doesn't matter as much because it's not equal to that around me. But then, sometimes I'll find myself in like a paying gig, and then every single person there is being paid. They don't want to pay for people who can't play. And so, like, everybody around is like really a lot better. And I'm just a lot more mentally stimulated, a lot more like excited for those kind of performances, and I'm a lot more excited to do my best. And those are kind of the musical moments that I live for. It doesn't even really matter the genre. I've realized I can play any genre, but like um as long as my brain is being stimulated musically, and I'm my talent is being pushed to its limit, like then I'm happy and I'm excited and enjoying what I do.
Yeah. That's cool. That's really interesting. One thing I was kind of thinking about is because you already had the idea of a flow state, or you've heard of it before, you already knew what it was. Andy knew also, he sent the graphic. I feel like I kind of had an idea of what the concept of the flow state was, but I didn't really know that it had a name or what the term for it was. But one thing I was thinking about is, do you think being aware that the flow state exists helps perpetuate people to be more passionate about, finding things that stimulate them and pushing themselves to complete projects or get better at whatever skill they're trying to learn, or just learning in general? Do you think just the knowledge that the flow state even exists helps that?
That's a good point and question, and um it's yeah, I feel like awareness is important. It makes me think of like mindfulness. Um the awareness that it exists. I, I don't know, like like I can put a name to it. We can all put a name to what a flow state is. But
Right.
I think people can generally tell like if they're bored or if they like what they're doing. I don't know. Like you
Yeah,
didn't
that
know
is
what it
true.
was. Sorry, like you didn't know what it was when you were a little kid and you were excited to learn. You just were like, I want to learn this. And now you could probably say, yeah, when I was a little kid, I was in a flow state whenever I was studying these things that interested me and that hours just went by quickly, or whatever.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good point. We all kind of inherently know that it exists. Because the reason I brought that up is I was wondering, like, it'd be interesting to do a study where if you give a lecture on the concept of the flow state, or just kind of explain the idea at school first, and then see, like, I guess if you're doing a study, you would have one class that got the lecture about what the flow state is and being more aware of what it is, and then one control group that didn't, and then seeing if the students who were aware of the flow state were actively trying to perform better or not. That would have to be some type of intensive study. I wouldn't go about doing that, but that'd be interesting to see the results of that.
yeah, I would say one way it might fit into the puzzle is like if I'm aware that I am or am not in a flow state, it might help me plan my future better. Like if I know I'm in a place in life where I'm pretty bored by my daily routine, I might realize, yeah, I'm not being challenged mentally. I'm not being stimulated. I'm just kind of like trudging through each day. And maybe it could help me to plan more into the future. Like, yeah, I need to change some things so that I can put me in the path of being in a flow state better. Maybe that is one way that the awareness of it can benefit you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool because, I've been working as a child development practitioner with City Year, AmeriCorps, past couple of months, and it's so sad seeing students in class that just don't care about learning at all, and they don't care about what they're doing. They don't care about school or class, or it's very hard to get them engaged. And I've wished there was an easy way to fix that. I don't think there is, but that's definitely something I want to help, is helping students like kind of get in that zone of desiring to learn and enjoying it at the same time too, and pushing themselves to learn things on their own.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, I mean, I have a question like for Andy actually. Like when you were in school, because it seems like you take initiative to like learn whatever you need to because you know that all these things will benefit you. But like, what about during your school years? I imagine there are a lot of subjects that did not stimulate you, and what what did you do about them? Like, were you ever really bored? Did you ever not try hard in any subject?
Are you asking about like general education courses?
AP US history.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Andy absolutely hated that class.
Yeah.
I remember I
Say.
was basically babysitting you that whole entire class time, just like trying
Oh,
to
really?
get you to not fail. Yeah, like you did not care about that class. But I'll
Yeah.
let you answer that question.
Okay. I don't really recall those like high school classes, so maybe Adam can answer that for me for high school. But some of the classes I took at college, yeah, I bet if you like looked at me in some of the GE classes, and then you looked at me in like the CS classes, you'd be like, "There's no way that's the same student by the amount of effort they're outputting." Uh, yeah, I actually failed well, it's weird. Like I failed a class, and then oh no, my teacher failed me because he knew like, oh, this guy doesn't do anything. But I looked at a syllabus, and I was like 0.1% above his threshold, like the number in the threshold that you're actually supposed to be above. And I think he didn't think I was gonna notice, but I called him out like, "Hey, I actually passed, and you didn't pass me." And he was like, okay, yeah, sorry, you passed. You get the credit." So
You accomplished your job by 1.01%. That's great.
yeah, like I was I was fighting for it because I did not want to retake that. But yeah, to answer your question, like I just did not care at all about. I think yeah, if it's something that I know is not going to be directly beneficial or at least significantly beneficial, I'll just try to avoid it if I can.
And
Yeah.
that's pretty inherent to your personality overall too, not a school thing. But it's
Oh no.
funny when we talk about things and when there is no use in anything that people do, you just don't find it
Oh no.
like appealing at all. It's the funniest thing. Um, I don't know. You're really good at calling out irrational human behavior because, yeah, humans
Oh,
do
okay.
really funny and stupid things, and um, the one of the
But
cool things about your personality is if you see something that has no value to you or you feel has no intrinsic value whatsoever, you're like, why? You don't want to have any attachment or what's the word I'm looking for? Have anything to do
investment?
with that.
Oh, okay. Okay. I've usually been pretty proud of that, but I just hope it's not a problem where I ignore people. Uh, just like people get if I give off the impression that I don't care enough,
Yeah.
that's when I
I
think
mean
it becomes a problem.
that's good that you're aware of that though.
Hmm.
But I don't think there's anything wrong.
Well, that's what I thought you were saying when you
Oh
brought it up the
no.
first time. Like,
No, it's something that I admire about you because you're when you bring up situations like that, it's very grounding almost. It makes you like think twice about like, yeah, why do humans do that? Or why do people talk like that? And
oh
you're
yeah.
good at pointing out the silly things.
Well, why? Okay, maybe I have a. This is a question for you guys. Why do they have us? Why do they have us take general ed classes in college?
Dude, I'm trust me, I'm asking the same questions, you know. And why don't English majors take engineering classes? Why do engineers have
Hey,
to
that's
take
right.
English classes if English majors don't have to take engineering classes? You know, like
Yeah.
what's up with
Yeah.
that?
I feel my theory would be that it has to do with like contributing to creating like rounded out individuals, like, and maybe my thought would one of them is, like, for people who don't know their path perfectly yet, because I mean, you go to college right after high school a lot of times, and you don't maybe you choose a major, but maybe you're not super passionate, and some people do seem to, like, get really into, like, one of these GEs, like, where it'll, like, inspire something about them, like, I wouldn't have taken anthropology if I didn't have to, but I actually really liked it, and at least that is pretty, um, like, pretty good.
Yeah, I think the reasoning behind it is because they do want well-rounded people. But I mean, if you're a college student, you probably are already
Uh,
good enough at English to not have to take more English classes when you're trying to study computer science or engineering or
oh, I
you
don't
know,
know.
if it were true that they wanted students to be more well-rounded, then why don't they have English majors taking engineering classes? Like
Yeah.
why do STEM majors have to do all their STEM classes plus the arts, but arts majors just stick with the arts?
Oh,
I
yeah, I
just kind
think.
of noticed a trend with colleges in general.
Hmm.
Just kind of really, they have this agenda to really, really push liberal arts more. And I don't know, like, why they feel that it's as big as a necessity that they think they do. But that's just one thing I've noticed just through my college experiences. For whatever reason, they really, really want students to know their liberal arts. And I don't know.
Well, I
I
think
don't
it
think there's
just cuts
anything
with
wrong
you.
with STEM majors not having to continue that post high school.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll
Yeah,
let you talk now, Andy.
Okay. Yeah, we got to figure out a system for signaling that we want to speak, or we'll just have a free for all. That's fine with me.
I don't mind just the genuine, natural conversation of free for all. But yeah, go ahead, Andy.
Okay. Yeah, I think it has to do with how we define well-rounded citizens or well-rounded people. And I could see why they would be like, oh, we want people to know about, philosophy or some of the historical events, you know. Like if all these people coming out of colleges are like experts in, I don't know, calculus, for some reason that's not going to look that great in our society, I feel like. Not as like, I don't know, not as good as someone who can talk about politics and history. Well, that's just my perception, but I could be wrong.
Right. And I think that's kind of why we have master's degrees and doctoral degrees in the first place is for that specialization. Because the bachelor's degree is kind of just like, I mean, it's still a really high achievement, so it almost sounds wrong to say it's the lowest level. But I mean, I'm comparing it to master's degrees and
Okay, yeah.
doctoral degrees, but um, you only have to take general education classes during your bachelor's degree, so that's kind of like the lowest level, and um, it makes sense that that's where they push those GE classes is because they want the well-rounded people.
Well, that's where they get you. Yeah.
I just don't know why did I have to take 4 English classes? Like,
You
sure,
took
okay, give me
4
like
English.
one or two, but when I have to take 4 English classes and then I have, friends in the liberal arts colleges that take 0 engineering classes that don't go
Mhm.
up to calculus, like that's kind of a little bit much.
Well, it's the
And then the
way of
argument
the world.
becomes, well, philosophy majors, English majors, political science majors, they don't need calculus. Well, technically, I don't really need philosophy, but you're giving me a philosophy class to expand that portion of my mind. So just give a philosophy major a calculus class to expand that portion of their mind?
Yeah. All
That
right.
was kind of my reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
I'm
So
fine
you're
taking
saying,
those classes, I just don't realize why I had to take so many GEs.
Well,
I
it
could
costs
have
money,
saved.
you know.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying I don't want them, is because they cost more money. But that's why colleges
Mm.
force you to take them, is because they want
Yeah.
your money. But I could have
True.
still paid money on other classes that I could have spent my time doing.
Maybe.
College is just a weird system.
Mm. Well,
I
I
think the
think
whole education system in general just needs to be formed some way. Maybe that's what I'll pursue as a career.
let's do it, Adam.
Yeah. Change the whole thing.
Reform.
What were you gonna say, Andy?
Oh, my proposition is that if you know what you want to do, like if you're certain you want to do computer science, in my case, just let the student just pursue that, and they don't have to take the G's. And if they're not well-rounded, well, that's their fault. It's kind of that's what I'm thinking. But I don't
Ah,
know what
that's
that.
really interesting. That's an interesting thought, Andy. Like, because kind of what you're saying is we should have the free will to decide whether or not we want to be well-rounded in the first place.
Right. I would
Yeah.
say I'm not even. I I'll admit I don't think I'm very well-rounded anyway, and they had me taking all those GEs, so
Yeah,
it kind of
I
didn't
think
work for
you're
me.
pretty.
But
I think you're a well-rounded person, but not because of the classes you were forced to take for your GE classes,
okay.
but just in general through your life experiences, you've you kind of naturally become a well-rounded person. Like you
Hmm.
don't need to take a philosophy class or English class or psychology class in order to do that.
Definitely.
I think well-roundedness stems from acquiring maturity, not from taking classes.
Maybe it helps some people, less mature students.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm thinking about this conversation and thinking about where it began. And it began when Adam was saying how some people in the school that you would um, work at, they just don't care at all. And
Okay.
that's kind of why I asked Andy about
Oh yeah. Yeah.
if he experienced that. But the thing is, I feel like Andy kind of knew early on generally what he wanted to do. I mean, didn't you say, was it in high school or when was it that you realized what you were really into? Because I remember
Yeah,
you
that's
making
very
games.
true.
Yeah, I remember it from 8th grade or maybe ninth grade when you were starting to play around making games and also getting really more technically skilled.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it was around 11th or 12th grade, but high school, somewhere in there.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
one of the lucky few on this planet, Andy, who knew exactly what they wanted to do before graduating high school. That's a rare gift. Not many people
Well,
get that opportunity.
would you say
What's
that's
that?
necessarily true, Andy? Like, did you know
Oh,
exactly at that
oh,
time or generally?
well, I'm actually thinking like I don't know if that was exactly what I wanted to do. It is something that I enjoy, but who knows? Like maybe if I would have like thought about it another year, maybe I would have really been into I don't know, math or something or statistics. But
Yeah.
um, you're just asking, was I certain computer science was what I wanted to do? Not really. I've always kind of thought like, oh, this is something I can do decently, or I have like a pretty fair start. And I did hear it pays pretty well too, so that helped me. But it wasn't like I know why, and I know that I want to be a computer scientist. Um, it was just kind of like a lot of things were ripe, so it seemed like a good decision.
Yeah.
To answer your question, I
Interesting.
don't know if,
I mean, I'm thinking like about the kids who don't have that when they're in high
mhm.
school and they don't even have it like after high school. Like I don't know.
It's
What
hard
do
to
they
know.
do? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is hard to know. I think Andy is kind of in the what's the word for it? Like he's an outlier. I don't think he's in the norm. I think it's completely normal to figure it out as you go. I think that's
Yeah.
where most 20-year-olds are at.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering though, did you guys have in high school, they were like, hey, you gotta pick a career and you gotta research careers and whatnot. Did you guys go through that?
Yeah, in
A
like
little bit.
10th or 11th grade, something like
Yeah,
that.
I had it in 10th grade.
In my opinion, I always remember, in college, there were so many times when I just felt angry or mad or discouraged about like wishing that high school did a better job at kind of making you look into the career field you wanted to go into or what you wanted to major in when you got to college.
Mm.
And I know obviously a 14, 15, 16-year-old, they're not going to know what they want to do for a career exactly. But I just wish that high school did a better job of taking the initiative of kind of pushing that on us and making us think about our futures a little bit more than they did. I felt like
Mm.
when I was in high school, I was so in the moment with turning in all my homework and all my assignments, and I just grinding all the time in high school. I feel like I worked harder in high school than I did in college just because of every how much homework I was getting and trying to fit it into my schedule. And I just I remember there were so many times in college when I felt upset that high school didn't do a better job getting us to think more about college majors or career fields to look into.
Yeah.
That's tough. I don't know if that was their responsibility. Because that might even be like a thing that parents have to teach you, or parents have to help you, guide you with.
Right, maybe a little bit, but I mean, colleges have career centers, right? Like I feel like high schools should have career centers too.
Oh
I
yeah.
think there's this society has really low expectations for teenagers for the potential that I believe teenagers actually possess. I think teenagers possess so much more capability about deciding what they want to do in the future, choosing a potential career path, than society allows them to think. And I actually finished a book a couple weeks ago. It's called Do Hard Things, and the book kind of applies to people of any age, but it was originally written for teenagers to kind of rebel against the stigma that the teen years are meant to kind of party or take your time and just enjoy life while you're still a teen before you have to move on to being an adult. And it's kind of this freebie period where you just get to enjoy yourself and have fun and hang out with friends all the time. And that's kind of forced society to view teens as less than they're capable of being, and teens adopted that mindset, and it's just this perpetual negative feedback loop where um,
Hey,
yeah,
hey.
we're just telling teens that they're not smart enough, they're not developed enough, they're not mature enough to be able to start thinking about what they want to pursue in the future or what goals they should start setting for themselves. And I think that's negatively impacted a lot of people. And I think teens are so much more capable of performing duties and having qualities in, I don't know, learning and growing more professionally than a lot of people give them credit for. And I think there's a lot of potential that gets wasted because we don't expect from the teen years.
Yeah. Man, just making me think about like this whole topic we're talking about. Like something hit Andy at some point, some kind of inspiration hit him and he figured
Mm.
out exactly what he was interested in, or generally.
Mhm.
But a lot of people don't experience that.
Yeah,
Yeah, this
that
is
is very interesting.
it's actually like kind of new to me. A lot of people I've met, they've seemed to known what they wanted to do. So yeah, I guess it's kind of enlightening to hear that there's all these people who are not as fortunate.
Yeah.
Uh, I was thinking, yeah, I think, well, I don't know what we were talking about, but uh, I was gonna say I think it really has to do with passion, and I'm sure flow state has to do with it too. But you find something that's passion that you know you're passionate about, and it just sticks with you and just kind of motivates you to do all this stuff. And I think for me, I got super lucky, and I found something that I could be passionate about very early on. And I want to believe like everybody has something they could be potentially passionate about, but they just don't know how to find it or how to discover that. So that's maybe those people who don't know exactly what they want to do.
Yeah,
But
that's true. And I think another factor that goes into that is not every passion has a field that you can profit off of, I
oh
guess.
yeah,
For example, like you just your character, your personality, everything that kind of just goes into you as a person, like what makes up Andy makes you really passionate about computer science. Like that's just your personality. I don't think like anyone forced that on you or uh, you just have this natural tendency to enjoy computer science. And computer science nowadays has a lot of job opportunities, and people who major in computer science have a lot of career options for them. But for example, I could use an example from my life. Like for me, I love running and biking and pushing my body really, really long distances. But unless you're an Olympic athlete, like that type of passion isn't really going to get you that far. Like I can't really profit out of my passion for running and biking. Some people can, but a very, 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 very small percentage of those, who go on to race professionally or in the Olympics or like obviously it's possible to make a career out of cycling or running long distances, but not for everyone. But for
Mhm.
computer science, that has a much broader range of people who are capable of making a career, or at least making a viable living off of versus running and or cycling or just physical
Yeah.
activity
So the
in general.
the stars really have to align when you figure this out.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I can add that, you know, in high school around when Andy figured out that he was into computer science and things in that field, I figured out that I really liked music. Like particularly, I was always enjoying pretty much every minute of like my band experience, like getting good at this instrument, like, you know, getting control over this instrument and being able to do anything that was put in front of me and more. And that really, it was one of those things where you don't even really decide to be interested in this thing, but the interest just consumes you, and spending time with it is effortless, or it's something you want to do with your time. And so it's like it makes me think back to my first year in college was being a music major, performance major. And I liked it and I was like down, but this realization, I mean, I think I may have known before, but it really just started to hit me that, yeah, this is a skill that I like, I'm proud of and stuff, but making money with it is a lot more worrisome than another field. Like, all this money that's going into college for me, how long before I see that again? Because the path to being a, self-sustaining musician is not a very clear one, and it's kind of like what Adam said about these athletic things. It's like it exists, but the amount of people who actually make money off of it is less maybe than computer science or, another discipline. And so, after I had that 1 year, I decided to pull out of um, that major and change schools and try to find something else. And I happened into the computer science field as well, but the kind of for logical purposes and also because I knew I'm relatively tech savvy. It's like I can get this logically. This is a great path to be on, but like I still haven't gotten to the point where the intrinsic motivation is there to the extent that it was with Andy or to the extent that it was for me in music. And I don't know. That has contributed to frustration in my path moving forward, but still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that is interesting, and I think that's just something kind of deal with of kind of realizing, yeah, not every field is weighed equally, or every option or career pursuit has the same amount of fairness to it.
Yeah.
Hey, Logan. Why did you choose computer science? I think
Why did
I
I?
remember. Yeah.
Because let's see. I had a couple semesters at community college and um I hadn't really gotten a major yet after my music one. And then I took my first computer science class and I absolutely loved it. I had an amazing professor and I think I did get a flow state out of all the assignments because unlike any other class in my life, aside from like music related things, um, I would do the assignment the instant that I could. Like the first moment I could, I would do the assignment and I would try to like do it to the absolute best of my ability. So I wouldn't just like do it enough to turn it in, but like enough to like try to pass it with flying colors just because I was excited to use every single tool that was given to me. So
Nice.
that experience as a first semester made me think this is a great path to be on. And I still am not saying it's not a good path for me to be on. Like I'm in the middle of the path, but
Mhm.
it it felt like that before and it doesn't feel like that as much now. And yeah, so that's basically where I'm at.
Okay. I was wondering. I'm wondering if like, because I think I had mentioned to try computer science, but I didn't know how much of an influence that had on your
It
decision.
was like it was like a good idea and it felt compatible. I felt compatible with it. Like,
Okay.
you know, my whole life like more so than like now even, but I think I'm starting to get more into it. But like when I was younger, even before like you and I were friends, like I did enjoy being on the computer and kind of figuring out everything I could. Maybe not like everything that there was to know, but I really liked figuring out how to make it work and do anything I wanted to do.
Hmm.
And I remember, like, in middle school, like, crashing my computer a few times to the point where,
I remember those
like,
days when you would go
remember
into
that?
the library and just crash computers in the library. Oh
Oh,
my
yeah, yeah.
goodness.
But I mean, like, where I would mess with my computer so much that it was, like, beyond repair, and then I'd have to,
Oh
like,
no.
factory reset it several times where I lost so much data and so much, like, projects just because I was, like, trying to change every setting that I knew how to change. So that that was in me, that was in my memory, and it kind of was like, "You know what? I bet computer science would be a good path because there's so much more to know that I don't know, and I bet I'll enjoy it. I'll enjoy learning every step of the way."
I think that works for you too because you do like problem solving and you like being on the computer. You like problem solving things on a computer, and I think it's a valuable mindset to have going into the field of science.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
guys are making me wish I did computer science.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah.
I wish I could
Hey,
go
you still
back in time
can.
and do I do you have $30,000 a year on you any chance?
Take out a loan. Yeah. Well, I will say I think I've said this before, but yeah, sometimes the format of being taught, or like the I guess the teacher in this case, could really make or break the experience. And I'm saying like the experience of getting a degree. So I'd say maybe think about that. I don't know what your professors have been with CS, but I'll say for me, I'm pretty sure if like I wasn't as passionate about like game development on the side, and I would just go to the teachers that I had, I'd probably be like, this dude, this major sucks. Adam never takes computer science because this sucks. I hate it. But fortunately,
Yeah.
yeah, like I could always be like, well, this teacher sucks, but I could still go back. I could still go home, just do my own stuff, and I'll be good. Uh, so I don't know if you have that for yourself, but uh, yeah, maybe like, and I don't want to throw any teachers under the bus or like school systems, but we've kind of already been doing that, or Adam has been doing that a little bit. But
Hey,
yeah,
I'm
like
fine with that.
I guess my I don't know, my kind of summary is don't base your passion for like a field of study based on like the teachers that are showing you it, because I don't think they're always going to do a great job. But in the case of
Very
like
yeah.
your first course in computer science, like that was a good example of a teacher that could stimulate your interest. But there are the people who are on the other side, which maybe you've run into them. So I don't know, just be wary of that.
Yeah, I really like what you said about don't let your experience as a teacher affect your perception of that subject. Because
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
um, I don't know if I was reading a book or an article or watching a video, but Robert Kiyosaki, he's a real estate entrepreneur and he owns a couple businesses and he's written a couple books. I've read one of his most famous ones, but anyway, he always says don't I can't quote him exactly, but it's of the similar thing that you're saying is don't expect your experience with a teacher to be the correct representation of the subject that you're in because teachers go to school get certified to be able to teach that subject, but they don't actually have the most experience in that subject. Like
Oh yeah.
you have your computer science teachers, but I bet you people who are in the computer science industry and actually doing things computer science related are probably better at teaching, or maybe not teaching, but at least giving a better representation of what the actual world of computer science is like. And that's why you can't, I guess, trust the teacher. Trust is not the right word, but that's the best I have in this situation is don't trust teachers to give you the most accurate representation of the subject you're studying, because they're trained to teach. They're not trained to actually do the field you're learning about.
Well said, Adam.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
I don't think any of my professors were practicing computer scientists, or like
Really?
they were working. Uh, maybe I think there were like two. Oh yeah, actually two of them work where I work right now, so I see them sometimes.
What? Your
That's what
professors in school?
What's that?
Your professors from school?
Yeah, they're one of them I had. Oh, I think I had one of them twice and then one of them once. But yeah, they're professors from school. They're part-time where I work, and then part-time. Oh no, I don't know. I don't know. They're like part-time somewhere, full-time somewhere, whatever. But they did teach while I was in school, and they work where I work now currently.
Wow.
That's not saying much. Oh man, never mind. I won't get into that. But other than that, I'm saying of like I don't know the 50 teachers. Well, I don't know about 50, but of like the 30 CS teachers, only two of them I think were working professionals that I knew of.
Yeah,
Could be
and
wrong.
that's why I'm debating whether or not I want to go to school to get a degree in business, because why would I pay money to learn from professors about business who their experience is in teaching and not business, when I could just go somewhere and get paid to learn actual people who are doing business or
Yeah,
entrepreneurship? And
that's what.
obviously, I think school and education is still handy. It's not like teachers are worthless. I'm not saying that. There obviously is a lot to gain from going to school, and there's a lot to learn, because I believe that school, and especially colleges and universities, they're not there to teach you things necessarily, or there to teach you skills or anything. They're there to give you exposure. Like, I think school
Mm.
is does a very good job, and I think its purpose should be giving exposure and providing exposure to subjects or concepts and ideas that someone who doesn't take those classes, would never know about. Like, for instance, like aliasing. I would have never known what that concept was or that word was if I didn't take my sound design classes. And because even though I'm not a professional audio engineer or anything, I am now capable of doing research on my own and self-teaching on my own, because now I've had that exposure to those terms, those words for those concepts exist, and now I have something to go off of to teach myself. So that's where I think the value in college is the exposure it provides to the fields that you're studying. But I don't think necessarily colleges are good at actually teaching you the skill sets
Mm.
for those fields, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think once you go work at a place, work somewhere, that's where they'll teach you the specifics, and they'll kind of say, "Oh, do you know about this?" And you're like, "Yeah, we covered that in school," and they'll be like, "All right, go brush up on it or read this."
Exactly.
hmm Sometimes they'll even be like, "Hey, you know about this?" And you're like, "No, we didn't learn that in school." I'm like, "Well, just learn it now." So you get a mix of both, but at least it helps to have some of that going in with some of that knowledge. School's weird. Let's just
Yeah.
not have school. Why do we have school? I think like mentorships. I don't even know if people apprenticeships, I think it's called.
Yeah, apprenticeships. I'm a huge advocate for apprenticeships. I think we need, if there is any form of education reformation that needs to happen, it needs to be found in the reestablishment of apprenticeships, because that's how things used to be done. And there was no, this kind of goes back to the whole thing about the negative stigma of teenagers seen in society that I was talking about earlier. Is it wasn't until the 1910s, I think it was 1912, but I could be wrong, that the government passed laws that said students had to stay in school all the way up until the age of 18, or, being a legal adult. But before then, people were only in school until they were old enough to get a job or get an apprenticeship and start acquiring a skill set that could be applied in a certain field. And in the book Do Hard Things, it talks about a whole bunch of different stories of how, kids were getting, or teens, I guess, were getting jobs back then. And I guess one of the more popular ones is, it talks about how George Washington was only in school for a couple of years until his teen years, when he got an apprenticeship with surveyors, and he was actually self-taught in algebra and geometry and trigonometry and a little bit of calculus, I think. And he was like 14 or 15 when he was his own self-made surveyor. Um and I just, that's how things used to be done, and they worked. And I think apprenticeships could be a lot more applicable. And I'm not saying we just have to completely do away with school keeping students in until the age of 18, or up till 12th grade, whatever age you are at that time. And but just reintroducing some type of system where businesses are apprenticeships for teenagers. I think once you're 13, 14, 15, that's when you should start thinking about what career field you want to go into. I'm a huge believer in apprenticeships possibly making that a viable option, even if it's not starting that young, because that might be a pretty radical belief, especially nowadays, because everything's gone kaput teenage culture nowadays. But I still believe in the viability of apprenticeships even post high school. And so maybe instead of replacing high school, apprenticeships could replace college. I might be a little too hopeful to suggest starting apprenticeships at an earlier age.
Gotta take
Yeah.
little steps, small steps.
Small steps.
Huh.
You gotta crawl before you could walk, walk before you could run, run before you could fly.
Yeah.
I think that's for birds or something, not humans. That's not true. Humans can fly.
No, because birds don't even learn how to crawl, walk, or run. They just get pushed out of the nest.
Oh yeah.
And they have to learn to fly in order to survive.
Dang. I don't want to be a bird.
That would be nice.
They seem just fine though. Yeah, they're like the ultimate self-pushers of Well, because you're talking about the book Push Yourself or something?
Do hard things.
Oh, Do Hard Things? Yeah, that's kind of like
We
the
could
bird's
write our
handbook.
own book, Andy, and call it Push Yourself.
Okay.
There you
Push
go.
Yourself. A book about, I don't know, jumping out of the nest.
Jumping out of the nest. Yeah.
There's also that jumping into the deep end concept, which I like too. I think that's a good
Yeah.
way to live your life.
Yeah, very similar metaphor.
Hmm.
What's one place where you feel you've done that, Andy?
Jumping into the deep end. I
Yeah,
think with
anytime recently or any discipline?
all right, let's see. Yeah, so I don't know if I told you, Logan, but I'm starting a website and I have
Oh
no
yeah.
web background whatsoever. So, but I really wanted a website. So, yeah, I just kind of jumped into it. It doesn't seem that hard. It's pretty tricky for someone I stick to mostly like game development, so I don't know much about web.
Yeah.
But there are like, a lot of tutorials and there are a lot of resources. They make a lot of it easy too, because everybody wants their own website, so there are a lot of
Yeah.
these like templates and whatnot. But yeah, I have a functioning website as of now.
Wow.
Um, it took me about, I think I got it finished in like a week. Not to brag or anything, but yeah, that was like a week. I'm just saying like that was a week of just swimming in the deep end, so to speak.
Wow. Dang, that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Can
That's
you
all I
like
can really
send
think
that,
of.
by the way?
Oh yeah, sure. Uh,
Maybe in the
should I
chat?
should I speak it or just type it?
Huh. If you want people going, the hundreds of thousands
Nah, let's
listening. Oh,
next time. I'll if there's enough user requests, I'll just send it to you this time. But
yeah.
yeah, that was like my most recent jumping into the deep end.
So
I
if
don't
you
know, do
had
you
to do
guys
that, or what's that?
uh you first. I'll remember.
I was just gonna say, like, if you had to make this same website again, and it
Hmm.
just got destroyed right now, how long do you think it would take?
Hmm.
Now that you know what you know.
Yeah, knowing what I know, it's maybe half the time, so half a week.
Wow.
A lot of it was like I just had to type in things and format stuff. It wasn't too much learning. A lot of it's just typing in like busy work.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
Hmm. So, but yeah, I think it'd be relatively short.
that's cool.
Huh, thanks. Well, I was gonna ask if you guys have jumped into any deep ends lately.
Well, I mean, I would say, what, since you and I were talking about it, and like since the quarantine and stuff, like, um, I had the idea a while back of like, I want to just have a thing going where I start getting my skill onto YouTube. Like, how do I get my trombone playing onto YouTube, like in a way that would um, make me excited? And so I just, there's YouTubers that do this, but just where they play every part to like a piece of music that they like and record it, edit it all together, and publish it. And now that we have all this extra time, I wanted to be stimulated by something, and that was kind of on the back burner, or more like in the back of my mind, and it's like, you know what? I'm going to jump on that now that there's so much time. My schedule is open and I have to pretty much make do at home with like being entertained and stuff. I was playing some video games before, like earlier on,
Mm.
and I was liking that too, but it was I was excited to have like a project going. And so I feel like the idea of like really understanding like a digital audio workstation and like video editing software, I wanted to like really understand them and be able to produce it like in as high quality as I can. And in a way, I kind of feel like I'm in the deep end because I know I've learned some basics of how to use it, but then, there are people who know a lot more, like who know so much about each like aspect of producing audio, and that's kind of what excites me that I just want to keep learning more and more about at the moment.
Nice. Yeah, you start realizing it's not so deep after all. I
Yeah.
think that's what you're saying. But
I like that.
oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm trying to like refine this theory, but or I don't know if it's a theory, but it's something that comes up in my life quite a bit. But I just call it rocket science syndrome, and it's the idea that there's something that you have no knowledge of, and you think it's so mystical and foreign to you, you don't even try to pursue it just because of how, unknown it is. But I've been trying to just say, screw that. I'm just gonna try it anyways and just give it a shot. And I'm finding that a lot of stuff is not even as hard as I thought it was originally. So yeah, I just I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but yeah, just
I love that. No, that's
oh, okay.
awesome. Man, I'm so glad you vocalized that. That's so cool. I love that. Rocket science syndrome theory. That's
Yeah.
good. We gotta publish a dissertation on that or
Yeah,
something.
all right,
Make
all
it
right.
an official theory.
Nice. So
That's
yeah, don't
So
cool.
be afraid of rocket science.
so
Or
it's
I
like
guess
the
it's more
idea. Go ahead.
oh,
Sorry.
yeah, it's like the idea that uh it's kind of more of like, and this is why I'm still refining it, but things are not necessarily rocket science, but at first they seem like it, and maybe they're not.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good outlook to have because I think the biggest factor that turns people away from pursuing new projects or passions or skills and trying things out is fear, like being afraid that they're not good enough. And no one likes failing at something. It's such an uncomfortable feeling. But I think
Mhm.
when you adopt that mindset, it you know that there's really nothing to be afraid about because you're gonna see, just like what you said, the deep end's not as deep as you thought originally, and that it was all just in your mind.
Right. It's just
I
that
think that's. Oh, go ahead.
it's just the distortion of the water making it look like it's deep. It's actually
Right.
1 foot pool, the kiddie pool.
No, I like
Yeah.
that. I
Mm.
feel like I really do buy into that idea because I'm all about pushing yourself to learn new things and try out new things and do hard things, kind of like the book that I was talking about
Oh
earlier.
yeah.
I think after reading that, and then I was also, you guys know this about me. I'm really into entrepreneurship and just researching business and markets. And I was watching this one video. I forgot whose channel it was, but they were talking about the top 5 habits or behaviors of successful millionaires. And one of them was use the free time that you have and spend it doing something that produces something instead of consuming something. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
I think that whole idea of just being willing to choose to go out of your way and learn something new to produce something rather than just, consuming TV or social media or something that you're not making from your passion, I guess, um, is a type of mentality that I've been trying to adopt. It's more of an active mentality than a passive mentality. And I think that rocket science syndrome theory plays into that a little.
When did that start for you, Adam? The change in I don't know, being more productive.
Oh man. Um I can't say there's a specific time where it just clicked. It definitely happened over the years, but I could tell you it definitely started with our marching band director, the one and only man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Ralph Ewell.
I remember him.
Yeah, I think a lot of his philosophies and just like his sayings that he would always yell at us all the time, like, don't be lazy, um, like rid yourself of an entitlement mentality, I actually wrote. There was a day when I was just thinking about Mr. Evil and just all the good things he's had to say. And there was a day when I actually wrote down as many sayings of his that I could remember. And I think I still have the list somewhere. I'm looking for it right now. If I do, I'll let you know.
I think I saw that
Um,
list actually.
yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know where it is.
It was on your any list. Oh no, that's not it. Your notes thing, classic notes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
these are just a couple of things. I found them. I found them. These
Okay.
are just a couple of things that he would say that kind of stuck with me. But I jotted down, don't be lazy. There's no such thing as good enough. The definition of an idiot is someone who does the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Don't make the
Hmm.
same mistake twice. Make a change. A mistake isn't bad, but repeating the same mistake over and over again is. If you're going to make a mistake, make a big mistake. Practice practice those in now rather than later in a performance, and take ownership of your mistakes. Don't be timid. And in parentheses, I put go for the high note. He kind of had um, the mindset of kind of just going for it, and
Hmm.
I really like that about him. I also have rid yourself of an entitlement mentality. He would say that a lot. If you do everything perfectly, but you make one mistake, that's what people are going to notice, the mistake, not how perfect everything else was. Which kind of goes into the concept of uniformity, which is very important in marching band. You're only as good as your worst teammate. That's a popular one that every coach uses, but I think he was one of the first ones to kind of drill that in my head. And another one's like on time is late, early is on time. This is a dictatorship, and you're all dictatorship. All his funny ones.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for being late. Um, just because this isn't the military doesn't mean we can't perform with the same level of discipline. That one actually, I that one really stuck with me. I love that quote. Just because this isn't the military doesn't mean we can't perform with the same level of discipline. And I think kind of to answer your question, Andy, of like, when did I notice that happening in my life? So that quote, along with I think our senior year of high school, a movie about Navy SEALs came out called Lone Survivor, and it follows the story of a Navy SEAL named Marcus Luttrell who went on a four-squad team to capture a Taliban soldier, someone who's higher up, like a Taliban general or something, and they got ambushed, and he was the only one who made it out alive. But in the beginning of that movie, they show real life scenes of BUDS training, which is stands for Basic Underwater Demolition and SEAL Team Training. And just the sheer amount of just utter um, torture and pain that they put those guys through when they're training to be Navy SEALs is astounding. And so I think watching those scenes from that movie combined with a lot of Mr. Evil's sayings really kind of opened my eyes into how far and how vast of a distance we're capable of pushing ourselves, both physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And once I realized that about me, I was like, I, I can't just stay the same. I have to keep pushing myself and pushing myself and, see how far I could go and utilize as much potential as I possibly can. And um, I think that all started with marching band with Mr. Ewo and watching that movie and kind of just the whole culture among the Navy SEALs in general. I remember I would watch a lot of Navy SEAL videos, and I know Logan has two guys like Jocko Willink and David Goggins. They're pretty
Yeah, yeah.
popular podcasters and speakers nowadays, actually, but they're both former Navy SEALs, and I kind of tried to adopt that culture into my life too, as well. Like, one quote that really stuck with me a lot is it's just this concept that Navy SEALs have called the 40% rule. And it goes like, when you reach the point when you feel that you cannot possibly push yourself any farther than you can even begin to imagine, when you reach that point of total exhaustion where you cannot possibly take another step, you've only used 40% of your capacity. And when I
What?
first heard that quote, that was so inspiring for me. It's like, whoa. Like, when you reach the point when you feel like you've spent everything, you're only at 40%. That's not even halfway. And just to, that might not be physically true, but just to adopt that mindset of, hey, when I reach the point where I can't even take another step, I cannot possibly push myself farther, and I'm only at 40%, so I'm going to just keep going anyway. Like, that concept really, really inspired me.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of my growth in college added to that. When I got into long distance cycling and long distance running and then trail running and um, eventually like rock climbing, I kept adopting all these extracurricular activities where you kind of have to learn how to push yourself farther than you think possible in order to learn and grow. And that kind of led to just my kind of whole philosophy on the purpose of life being to learn and grow. Like, I truly do believe that the purpose of life is to learn and grow. That's it. It's a
Yeah.
simple concept, but it's not easy.
I mean, what do you feel you gain from learning and growing? Like, do you feel like we're wired to want that versus like why why didn't you go down the path of the hedon or, you know, trying to
Right.
fulfill your every desire, um, living a life of only pleasure where pleasure is your goal? What led you to was it just these hearing these things, or do you feel like you're wired in a way that makes you want to
Yeah,
learn
and
and
I
grow
don't
and
know
push yourself?
if people in general are wired to want to learn and grow, but I think we're wired to take pleasure in the learning and growing when we're through the hardship and we make it through on the other end and we get to look back and see, whoa, I accomplished that. I made it through that challenge or that hard, difficult season of my life. Um, I don't think people are wired to enjoy the experience of learning and growing, but I think we are wired to enjoy what we profit from going through those experiences. And because, growing hurts. I mean, that's why we have the phrase growing pains. Like, growing is not comfortable at all. And
Yeah.
that kind of goes into another Navy SEAL quote that I like is get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because when you make uncomfortability or when you make discomfort, I don't think uncomfortability is a word.
Yeah.
I'm going to make it a word.
Okay.
If you make uncomfortability and discomfort your normal, then there's nothing that's going to get in your way because you're going to create an environment in which you thrive in the discomfort and you thrive in the growing and the learning process. Um, yeah, that's a very advantageous stage to find yourself in, a very advantageous mindset to adopt.
Do you think you've adopted that mindset?
Oh, for sure. I
Oh
try
yeah.
my best to adopt that mindset into my life and advocate it as much as possible. And it's cool and inspiring when I see other people adopt that mindset as well. And
Yeah, but I mean, like,
I think
really adopt. What? How are you measuring a successful adoption?
well, that's a tough question to answer, because when it comes to, how you perceive life around you, that's hard to quantify. Um,
Yeah,
I
that's true.
think
I
one
guess I'm not.
thing. Go ahead.
Uh, now that I think of it, I don't really know if that's a fair question, but I did want to see if you could answer it.
I think one thing that kind of comes to the forefront of my mind is you don't have to necessarily, be successful, or what this world calls successful or rich, or um, have the American dream lifestyle in order to be happy. And there's rich people that are happy, there's poor people that are happy, there's rich people that are not happy with their lives, and poor people that are not happy with their lives. The common trend that I feel that people have amongst being happy in their lives is, no matter what demographic you're in, no matter what social status you're in, no matter what economic status you're in, are the people who are learning and growing and profiting off their life experiences, and learning and growing from those experiences to open them up to more avenues of more experiences that allow them to learn and grow. And I think just that when you start getting into that positive feedback loop of constantly doing something hard, overcoming the challenge, profiting from that experience, doing something even harder, profiting from that challenge, and then doing something harder, and you start developing this positive feedback loop. And um, it's almost addicting. But I think the ability to be happy in, your current situation, or I don't know if happy is the right word, but being at peace with your lifestyle and kind of your outlook and your mindset, and having that peace comes from just the ability to have that mindset of, okay, maybe I'm not there yet, but I'm going to learn and I'm going to grow, and I'm going to come back out the other side a better person through that. And I think I don't know how to measure that, but I could say I think a lot of people can say I wouldn't know how to quantify, but I could say the quality of that lifestyle is um, self-evident.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question, but that was the best I could come up with.
Well, honestly, I was like thinking about the question I asked, and I was thinking, I wonder if it was even relevant to the conversation. So, like, well, because I remember you were saying you wanted to adopt a mentality of being, making discomfort, or in your words, uncomfort,
Uncomfortability.
uncomfortability. Yeah, you wanted to make that your normal, your like default, your, I don't know, standard, whatever. Is that kind of how that was the
I wouldn't
phrasing?
say like your default. Like, I'm not saying constantly forcing yourself to be in a state of discomfort. Like,
Oh, okay.
um, there's
Yeah, I guess that
there's
makes sense.
there's this monastery in Germany that's a host of these German monks, and there's a specific name for them that's not coming to me right now. But there were these groups of monks who, purposely wore the itchiest and scratchiest clothing, ate the minimum that they
Ate
needed
bugs.
in order to like, they purposely, they slept on beds of concrete.
Uh,
They purposely made life just that extra more difficult
uh-huh.
for them, just to like appear holier or whatever. um I'm not saying that. I'm not saying like go out of your way to make everything uncomfortable, because the way the human body works and the way the human mind works is we need those rest periods. You can't just constantly be under stress all the time. That's not healthy at all. But I just mean adopting the mindset where when you reach those moments of discomfort and those seasons of life where things seem very uncomfortable, like when you could learn to operate stress free in those situations and adopt that mentality that, oh, this is a hard season now, but by pushing through it, I'm going to come out the other side a better person.
I see. Yeah, so
When
I
you have,
misunderstood.
yeah. So I'm just saying, like, adopting the mentality for those hard times. I'm not saying make
Right,
everything
yeah.
in your life purposely hard. That's just foolish.
Well, I'll tell that to those monks.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
you think it?
I'd be happy to if I maybe
Okay.
when the next time I visit Germany, because
Yeah.
I visit Germany all the time.
Yeah. Okay, well. Yeah, so I think I didn't phrase my interpretation of it too well, but I did think you were saying make discomfort and uncomfort the what is it? Expectation. So anything that's better than that is better than your expectation, so you enjoy it. It's a luxury
Yeah.
too.
Well, that's the cool thing about that quote is you could think of it that way too, is if you're comfortable being uncomfortable, then when you are in situations that are comfortable, I mean, you're gonna feel on cloud nine.
Mm. That's what I thought it was. But
Yeah,
okay,
you
so
could kind of interpret it that way, I
mhm.
guess. That works.
Well, either way, I think I was more asking how do you know that you can, because I'm just wondering, because I don't think I've been able to do this in the past, but if I find some kind of mindset that I really like, and then let's say it has to do with going through adversity, when you hit that adversity, you should be able to be like, oh, okay, I've been trained for this because this is what my mindsets have been about, and I could get through it like no problem. But I found that I can't really. It's just difficult for me to remember everything that I've kind of been sticking to in the past. So that's why I'm asking you is like, how do you know that you've adopted a mindset? How do you like test that?
Mhm. That's a good question. Well, first I'd like to hit up on the point that adopting the mindset isn't gonna just make things easier. Like
Okay.
things are still gonna be just as hard. It's more about the attitude that you approach adversity with.
Okay.
Yeah, you're kind of making it sound like once you adopt the mindset, then
It's like magic.
moments of discomfort just magically become easier. That's not the case at all. The
Right.
the difficulty level of the adversity that you're facing is going to be the same, whether you adopt the mindset or not. The thing about adopting that mindset is you now have the attitude to maintain, a constant level of um like a clear mind about you to push yourself to keep going rather than stressing out more and more and then falling into a negative feedback loop where other aspects of your life start declining because you're going.
hmm Okay. I think that answers it. It's hard to know because I mean, without having any like strong beliefs, you could be like way worse off. So just having them might still be kind of a hard time, but comparing that to not having anything to fall back on, it could be like significant.
Right.
Yeah.
I
So
just think a lot of our outlook on life isn't due from the experiences that we have. It's due from the attitude of those
Mm-hmm.
experiences that we have. And that's what affects our outlook on life.
Oh,
And
that's sweet.
there's this really good, it's a pretty popular TED Talk video. But the core concept of it was that people don't remember the details and the how do I put this? Like the actual events, the analytical side to the events, um, like the information that we learn or discover necessarily, but we remember how we felt during that.
Oh,
Um, and the specific TED Talk was talking about how when we're listening to a speaker or listening to a seminar, we're not going to remember all the points that they make, all the information that they give us. We are going to remember how those talks made us feel. And the same thing, I think, goes into the experiences that we have. Like, we're not going to remember who said what, who did what at what time, and in what order the events occurred when we undergo a certain experience. But we are going to remember how that experience made us feel. And I
mm.
think by
Yeah.
adopting that certain mindset, by adopting that certain mentality, and having the right attitude through those experiences, it's going to change the way we feel about those experiences in a more positive light afterwards when we look back on them than a negative light.
Okay. Wow, that's I didn't. I might have to watch that TED Talk.
It's a really good one. I'm a huge advocate of TED Talks. I watch them all the time. People on my City Year AmeriCorps team always tease me about it because whenever I'm on a lunch break and I'm in our office, I always have TED Talks playing, and yeah, they know that about me. They'll tease me about it often because I'm always watching TED Talks. But I love TED Talks, and there's a lot to learn from them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, much
Maybe you'll do
wisdom.
one. You'll do one
Yeah,
one day.
I mean that would be a dream come true, honestly, to be able to give an actual TED presentation. That'd be so cool.
Yeah. Do one
Yeah.
on the value of TED Talks.
Be super meta about it.
Yeah. I think they like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen like 10 TED Talks in my life.
Oh man.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't even think I don't even know how many I've seen. I've maybe too much. I think that's why my teammates would tease me about it because I was probably spending more time watching TED videos than I probably should have been. I
Nice.
think there's a lot to learn from them. Obviously, you need to apply what you're learning from them in order for them to be beneficial to your mentality or your lifestyle. But they're definitely
Mm.
beneficial to hear and to have just. There's something about wise people and people knowledgeable in their specialized field constantly telling you things or giving you information and you constantly listening to that, that I think has a real positive benefit to your outlook on life. When you're having wisdom just on loop all the time, um, coming out of your earphones instead of, I don't know, what are the kids watching these days?
Oh, like Justin Bieber.
TikToks?
Oh.
Yeah. TikToks and Justin Bieber. Um, like at the end of the day, yeah, you might be in the same place as far as your lifestyle is, but as far as your attitude and your mentality, I think it's more beneficial to be listening to TED Talks or things of that nature.
Uh-oh. I think we lost Adam.
Oh no. Is that true, Adam?
maybe he's thinking.
Let's see. Let me look here. What do you, Andy? Do you consider texting anything where you're making text go to someone?
No, I've kind of always thought it's mobile, SMS texting.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but
I don't
it
know.
would make
Like,
sense here.
part of me wants to generalize it to be anytime you're making text go from you to another person, but it
Yeah.
does kind of deeply imply like cell phone signal.
I think if you were to say messaging or to message as a verb, that would count.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, you know what I wanted to do? I may have told you this. I was telling my partner that I want. It would be kind of fun to adopt the term telegram and telegraph again,
Oh yeah.
because it's like we talk on a telephone. Like we're still down to say telephone.
Oh yeah.
And what is a telegram? It's just sending like an image or message, like to someone. And so why is that? That's not incorrect.
Yeah, what would a telegraph be?
I think a telegraph would be receiving a text message, anything.
Oh, a text. I thought you were gonna say gram is a message and then graph is like a picture.
Oh
That'd
yeah,
be funny.
that would make sense too.
hmm Yeah, you should try it. Even as a
Yeah,
joke, just like, I'll telegraph you later.
yeah. I kind of want to start saying it because it's like, yeah, give me a ring on the telephone,
Yeah.
or I'll just send you a telegram.
Is that out of just like you're kind of mocking, not mocking like language at this point, or?
It's kind of like that, but it's also like it's a nice word. I kind of want to use it.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
too young to have ever had a telegram,
Yeah.
but like, and it's also just like telephone is correct. That's the correct word to say. I mean, you and I are having a telephone conversation right now, even though we're not using a phone at all, but we're sending sounds over a distance. So telephone. But now with Adam, we're having a telegram conversation
I see. Okay.
with the same service client.
Oh yeah. Both teleservices.
What do you think of the term telegram, telegraph?
I like it. I like when people kind of bring back words like that, especially for like the reason of, I don't want to say mocking, but kind of a parodying, I guess.
Yeah.
There was a word I was gonna try to do. I don't remember, but yeah, I like to do that sometimes. I would call people guy for a while.
Yeah. I remember
Yeah,
that. I like that.
it's not very common anymore.
It's funny
Pal.
because I remember that, and then um, people started saying "my guy" a lot more often.
Oh yeah, my guy.
Can you
As
hear
like
me?
slang. Yeah, there you
Yeah,
are.
Adam is back.
Hey, I'm back. Oh my
Hi,
gosh.
Adam.
What was the last thing you heard me say before I cut out?
Oh,
I think.
I was gonna say like I was gonna say you just said this, but then I forgot it. Let's
Oh
rewind.
man.
Logan, do you remember?
I can't even recall. And you
Uh,
didn't change anything, huh?
oh, we're talking about TED Talks, I think.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we were definitely talking about TED Talks, but I just want to know where I left off so I don't
We're
repeat
talking about
anything or miss
TikTok,
anything.
Justin Bieber. That's as far as I can get.
Anyway, I don't know
Yeah.
where I left off. I wish I did. But
That's fine.
I was kind of talking about how I feel like there's a benefit to constantly hearing and listening wise people talk and people knowledgeable about the fields that they specialize in. And I think TED Talk just provides a very good platform for that. I was
Hmm.
saying that Eleanor Roosevelt has a quote that goes a little something like, poor minds discuss people, average minds discuss events, and great minds discuss ideas. And I think TED presentations offer a really good outlet for those conversations of ideas to occur. And I think it's
Hmm.
more beneficial to let that be what you consume rather than, you know, TikToks and Justin Bieber or whatever the kids are listening to these days that we were joking about earlier.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with Justin Bieber per se. Well, I'm sure
Yeah.
there's, sure he's got his fair share. I mean, everybody has things wrong with him. How about this though? I was
No, I
wondering
was
when.
just
Uh,
go ahead.
okay, I was wondering when the last time you guys were amazed by a person, and I mean amazed in the way of like they just knew so much about what they're talking about that you were just kind of mesmerized how much they were talking about.
I mean, I'm mesmerized and impressed when I'm around you guys all the time.
Oh yeah.
Just hearing you guys talk
Same.
about computer science stuff and audio hardware, like
Oh
I think just your guys' knowledge of how to work a computer, I think is very cool. I mean, not even that, just the way your guys' brains work. I'm mesmerized all the time, and I think that's why we're just able to have really good conversations. Is
I'm
you're
flattered.
I
just
think
really the way your outlook on the world and the way you think about things is just really interesting to hear and to be around. But I think you're asking more of like people that actually pursue a certain field and are super knowledgeable
Yeah,
in that
sure.
field. And that's a really good question. I really like listening to speakers like Ravi Zacharias, Jordan Peterson,
Mhm.
Robert Kiyosaki. They're just really, really super smart and wise guys that are just fun to listen to. If I think of better people to answer that question,
Oh
I'll
yeah, definitely.
definitely let you know.
Have you heard have you heard any of those in person?
Oh no, 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 no.
Oh, okay.
All just through YouTube.
How about like an in-person example?
I'd have to think about that one.
Okay.
That's a good question.
I know one is the guy that I introduced you to, Andy, at
Yeah, is that okay,
that
yeah.
show of mine. That guy
Uh-huh.
Greg. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
I
just a
remember him.
wealth of information. Like I mean, he's an older guy, so he has had many years to accumulate it. But I just feel like, and when I talk to him, he's he's not hesitant to tell me so much of like what he knows, and like an hour will go by, and I'm like, dang, so much of this has been going over my head, but I want to
Mm.
absorb some of this because a lot of it is useful typically. But sometimes I guess he's talking at such a high level that it does like go past me.
Oh yeah, that's usually part of it, but
Yeah.
it's still as long as you're absorbing some of it, I think that still gets the experience or the sensation of being amazed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of an example of someone outside of a college setting. Like I know whenever I would go to office hours with my like electromagnetics professor and just I would just ask one simple question and he just goes off and where I was off an answer that's like 20 minutes long and I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's brilliant, but I have no idea what the heck he's talking about.
Oh
So
yeah.
I know that's happened to me in a college setting, but as far as just people I've interacted with outside, I there's not an example that's coming to me.
Dang. Yeah, I think if you can try that, it's a sensation. For me at least. I don't know about you guys, but
Well, go ahead.
working with an amazing person, I feel like that word kind of means different thing now, but I'm gonna I'll explain what I mean. You guys know what I mean by amazing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like working with an amazing person, it's pretty cool, and I wish I had more of that. But I do encourage you guys to try to find someone you can work with who just amazes you.
Yeah, well, I definitely believe in the power and benefits of mentorship. Like I do think that being around a physical person that's present in our life who's beyond us in years and expertise and knowledge and wisdom, that's definitely beneficial to have someone like that around. There's this quote that I heard, and it's really good. I don't know who it's by, um, but it says everyone needs a Paul, a Barnabas, and a Timothy in their life. And these three guys are biblical names. They're from the Bible, the New Testament of the Bible, and they were missionaries that were spreading the gospel throughout the first century AD. So really, really, really early on Christianity. But the concept of this quote is um, when it's saying everyone needs a Paul, a Barnabas, and a Timothy. Paul was this really, really super wise guy, super passionate about what he was doing, really ahead of himself in his knowledge of the gospel. And Barnabas was his partner in a lot of that. And Timothy was a younger disciple who Paul would write a lot of letters to encourage him in the missionary endeavors that he was doing. And the concept of this quote is everyone needs someone above them who's wiser in years, who has much more expertise and knowledge, and um, is kind of further along in life, that's able to speak wisdom and truth into your life. Everyone needs a Barnabas who's like a friend, someone you could walk alongside with on this journey and go through things with and experience things with together, and kind of have that brotherhood with. And then everyone needs a Timothy, someone a little younger than you, below you in years, and someone you could speak into their lives. And the cool thing about that is the person who told me that quote in the first place was one of my mentors through just my time in college. His name was Ron Miller, but he kind of served as my Paul, if I'm going to apply that quote to this situation. But I thoroughly believe, like, yeah, I think it's very healthy and would be very beneficial if everyone has a Paul, a Barnabas, and a Timothy, someone speaking into their lives, someone to walk through life with, and then someone to speak into someone else's life, or someone for you to speak into their life.
Yeah. Wow, I'm
Ah,
glad you showed me this quote.
that's really cool.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I like that it's like it's repetitive in that like the next person will be someone else's Paul, and then that person will be someone else's Paul. Like it continues forever. I don't know what you'd call that. Repetitive.
Right. Right.
Tessellates. That's cool.
It's cyclical,
Cyclical, sure.
it's generational.
Yeah, I think that's what I like about it. Maybe I'm thinking of it like mathematically inductive. I don't know what that means actually. Induction. But
Yeah, that could be a whole nother conversation. At some point
sure.
we'll have to come back to that.
I don't think it's that sophisticated of a concept. Well, I don't think it needs to be. But yeah, I'm thinking about people in my life and trying to fit them into one of these categories. I don't think I
Yeah.
have a Paul, and that's something that's I feel like is missing from my workplace. And I've been a little bit frustrated with work. And this quote kind of verbalizes it well, is that I don't really have any Pauls
Mm.
or
Yeah, and
Barnabases, for that
well,
matter.
I mean, I feel like you guys are my Barnabases, or I could be your guys' Barnabas, you know. Your
Yeah,
Barnabas is someone who's in a similar situation as you that you could walk through life with and alongside, you know. It's someone you go through the experiences together, someone you're in kind of that like brotherhood relationship with. Yeah,
cool.
so I
Right.
think like if I were to apply that quote to my examples in life, Ron Miller would be my Paul, you guys would be my Barnabas, and the students that I work with City Year, that they would be my Timothy.
Yeah.
Timothy's
Timothy's, yeah.
multiple. Just kidding.
I have
They
a
could be one.
couple. I have multiple Timothys, but you know, it's good to have at least one,
I
one
agree,
of each.
yeah. I think it's bad to have, well, I don't know about bad, but it could be better if you have zero of someone. Say it's
Right,
wasteful, wasted
right.
potential. I need to find some Pauls.
We all
Yeah.
do. We all do.
Yeah, wow, you're set. You got one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think someone could be their own Pauls or Timothys? I guess Timothy wouldn't really make sense, but um, Paul's
Yeah,
a.
no. I think I wouldn't say that's even possible to be your own Paul, Barnabas, or Timothy because
Oh yeah,
you don't know what you don't know. You need someone else who's far further along in wisdom and years and experience to be able to speak that into your life, you know.
yeah. I guess by definition that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Hmm. What about like Bill Gates
Yeah.
though?
No, it has to be someone in your personal life. It can't just unless you personally know Bill Gates and haven't mentioned
Oh
it.
yeah.
I mean,
No, I'm saying I'm wondering if he could have pulled that off.
oh. The
I don't know the guy enough to answer something like that. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I like that you
yeah.
guys have these quotes and charts, names for stuff. Because I just,
I'm like the quotes guy. Andy is like the charts and graphs guy, and then
yeah,
Logan's the concepts guy, the terms and concepts guy.
Yeah.
I'm sensing a good balance of
mhm, mhm.
tools here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because it's so much easier to go up to someone and be like, "Hey, you know about flow state?" rather than explaining it from like first principles of it's high skill, it's high challenge,
Yeah,
and you have to.
yeah. I mean, that's the whole reason terms and like vocabulary for concepts exist in the first place, so you don't have to go back and explain everything all over again. You
Yeah.
just,
Hmm.
what is that concept? It's in computer science, Andy. It's you package something up into one thing and then
Oh yeah,
multiple of those
abstraction.
abstraction. Thank you.
Hmm.
That's all vocabulary terms for high level concepts are is all it is just abstraction.
Abstraction. Yeah.
Yeah, I think our conversations have a lot of advantages to them because we carry those skill sets and um I don't know. We understand the value of naming what we're talking about and understanding that the value of like terms and concepts and um, ideas and I know I said I'm like the quotes guy, Andy's the charts and graphs guy, and Logan's the terms and concepts guy. But when you boil it all down, those are three different ways to express an idea. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to get here with these conversations is expressing ideas.
Right.
Yeah.
Exchanging. I see it as exchanging ideas.
Yeah, there we go. Exchanging ideas.
Well, and expressing. But I mean, what's been valuable to me is like learning all these new things that I guess I've kind of thought about before, but giving names and hearing someone else talk about it, it's really nice.
Right. Yeah, it makes
Yeah.
it a lot easier to exchange higher level concepts when you know the correct vocabulary terms to express them. And that kind of all feeds into abstraction in itself.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's funny how that reminds me of experiences I've had in musical settings where like people who are more like seasoned or like have been in certain settings more, they know like the vocabulary there is to know. So an idea can be communicated much faster. And then you're in another setting where people know how to like play their instruments, but they're like, can you do that thing where like you make the sound get louder and then do the other thing where you make it get like lower? And like whereas someone else would just say like, "Oh yeah, do a crescendo and then
Decrescendo.
play a whole step down," or
Yeah.
whatever. But I would just notice like certain moments where, man, this would be so much faster if everybody in this had the language to
Yeah.
communicate more efficiently.
Right. And that's where a lot of miscommunication and a lot of arguments actually come from. A lot of conflicts stem from the inability to agree on definitions of terms and concepts. And that's like the root of, I believe Andy and I have had a conversation about this before in the past, but like the root of miscommunication and conflict stems from people failing to identify the definition of a term in the same way as another party.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
It's all about semantics.
Yeah.
And that's where like in this generation, like texting can overcomplicate many
Oh
situations.
yeah, for
Like
sure.
we've all had this conversation before, and yeah, I remember I was like, "Amen to that." I remember that. Yeah, and yeah, that's kind of a struggle of our generation, and especially like for me, like witnessing what happens on social media to people, where arguments get out of hand very quickly, and
Right.
people unfriend each other over seemingly very little things, but often it's just like I don't know. There's so much missed in text, and yes, often it is just a misinterpretation of what something is or means.
Hmm.
Right.
How do we fix it?
Yeah, that concept in itself would be cool to have a whole nother conversation on, like, to elaborate on a little bit more in the future, but we could definitely save that for another time. I think I'm getting ready to get on going here.
Yeah. Well, let's say we end it right here, but you guys want to chat for like a second?
Oh, okay,
Um,
sure.
I don't know,
Yeah,
just
and you
about.
could even don't even turn off the recording, just keep it
Oh,
rolling.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
but we could
let's
we could always edit it.
Sure.
Yeah, in our minds, let's like say this is the end of like a podcast, but let's talk about this podcast for a second before we all like go our own way.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's debrief. We'll debrief.
Yeah.
I
Do you
like
want to do
cool.
like an unofficial ending to this one, or just go right into
Sure.
it? I don't
What
know.
do you mean?
Well, like there'd be something like, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel or our SoundCloud.
Nah, I don't think this is just our first one. We don't have to. We don't
All right,
have to.
all right,
We'll do that when the time comes.
all right.
We
Gotcha.
should call the episode uncomfortabilityness.
I was
kidding.
thinking of calling the episode "Flow State."
Oh yeah.
I thought that'd be a cool
Okay,
title,
yeah,
but we'll figure
Yeah.
that out.
yeah. We'll go and review a good name.
But I think this is worth being like a podcast, like first episode. I mean,
Oh
like a
yeah,
lot of
if that
things.
was our first episode, I'm quite pleased. I'm excited to see where this goes.
Cool.
Yeah,
Ah, it's good to hear
definitely.
you guys liked it. I liked it too.
Yeah, you liked it, Andy?
I did, yeah. I was actually kind of nervous, but 'cause I don't know really what podcasts are like, so I didn't want to say anything too strange.
Oh no, I
I mean,
think the goal of what Logan and I are trying to do, I think, is just to let the conversation flow naturally. Like we don't need to make it seem too professional, like we're like a talk show or
Okay.
anything, just
Okay.
like let's just like allow the conversation to flow naturally and see where it takes us. And that's kind of the purpose of this podcast, is just to kind of enjoy our natural conversations and get to be just let our character show and shine through, and get to share that with other people. And if people want to listen, they want to listen, and if not, whatever. This is still a cool project just for ourselves.
Uh-huh.
yeah, and just basically capture the organic conversation that comes up. And it's like, I personally feel like whenever I hang out with you guys, like organic conversations happen, and a lot of the time they leave me in a pretty good mood, honestly, because I don't see you guys all the time. They leave me in a good mood, kind of inspired, and like I don't know, interested by whatever we were talking about. So it's I think it's a good idea to just capture that, make it a podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys believe, and I'll answer this too, but do you guys believe like other people would want to listen to our our conversations?
Personally, I am having the expectation, and I don't know what Adam is expecting, but I am not expecting any listeners at the moment. Um, and I'm like okay with that. And I guess that's just the way you kind of have to do it, because podcasts are so saturated right now, and
Oh
like,
yeah.
there's so much to listen to. There's so much data out in the world, but at the same time, it's nice to get in this habit, and as we go, keep sending it around and see. I'm interested to see if we get one listener, you know,
Yeah.
and one regular listener. Maybe it would be a friend, maybe it wouldn't be. And I do kind of have a sense that there's value to it. And
Oh, wait, to
sometimes I think,
having a listener?
oh, there's value to this content.
Okay.
I guess I don't know if that comes from the ego, but I do
Hmm.
feel an inner sense that there would be value to this, to somebody that might not have these kind of conversations regularly. That partially comes from, being in certain friend groups at times or social settings where the topic of conversation is always really like superficial.
Hmm.
And, you know, so I
Right.
think discussing deep things and capturing it, maybe sharing it around it's a good thing. And I admire seeing others do it on podcasts and on YouTube, and it inspires me. And yeah, so the idea of doing it ourselves is a fun one, and I will never regret like just chatting with you guys, even if the records are never heard. So that's where I stand.
Okay. How about
What
you?
about you, Adam?
Can you? I kind of forgot what the original question was. Can you say it again?
I kind of forgot too. Something along the lines of, what do you believe other people will want to listen to our conversations?
Oh, well, I think over kind of this time period, I've identified three advantages that we have to this podcast. The first is because we're trying to capture the essence of a natural and good conversation with each other and with the ideas that we have to share. I think that's creating a certain level of vulnerability and genuineness. I don't know what the noun for that word is.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing a trend with like YouTubers and podcasters and kind of people who put themselves out over social media or other outlooks over the web or the internet is audiences really like vulnerability and they like their speaker or whoever they're consuming at that time. They like it when they're genuine. I'm kind of noticing that's a common, just innate thing about our human nature is we like genuine people. You know, you could instantly tell and easily tell when people are being fake, and people don't like to see that. And so I think we have an advantage in this podcast because we're just trying to capture the essence of a natural conversation. It's allowing us to be vulnerable with each other and with our audience, and we get to let people into kind of nitpick our brains a little bit and let people into our minds. And I think that adds to the genuine nature of this podcast, and people like to see that. The second thing was, I think the three of us have a tendency to displace ourselves from kind of being caught up in worldly things in society and being able to kind of be almost observers of the people around us and society around us. I think the three of us are really good at not being caught up in trying to be like the cool kid at the party, but we're really good at seeing through people and kind of taking a third person point of view or a bird's eye point of view over social situations and social interactions and kind of see how people interact and pick that apart and, you know, find the goofiness and silliness that us humans have and able to see through people. And even that almost adds another level of vulnerability. And um, I think that's the second advantage that we have. The third is I think there's not a lot of podcasts that have three people. You know, a lot of it is usually just one person and one person maybe with a guest speaker, like a host and a guest speaker. And so, you know, a lot of the times you'll get two people where it could be someone interviewing one other person. But I think there's an advantage of having three people talking and three, like no more than three and no less than three, just like the number three itself, because you're not going to have polarization that way. There's not going to be just two parties talking back and forth at each other, and there might be situations where there's like disagreements or conflict. Like because there's three of us, there's always going to be like two people talking and then a third person to be able to add something or a mediator or um, just having that extra voice in there to add to the conversation or stimulate the conversation and kind of add that third party aspect. And so it gets rid of polarization, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. So those are just three things I've kind of
Yeah, those are.
settled in my mind throughout
Mhm.
this process.
Yeah, it's glad to hear that you're thinking about the podcast itself during the whole time.
Yeah.
Just doing a little bit of that. Yeah, I think that's I mean, I agree with both of you. I think I want to be optimistic and think people would want to hear what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I would even add a fourth one to your thing, Adam, to your list. That I don't know. I always felt like we're kind of not afraid of being dorky. We're probably pretty dorky.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
that kind of goes into the whole genuine slash vulnerability point that I made is
Okay.
that's like that's point one B. I'll put that point one B.
Yeah,
We're
okay.
not afraid to be ourselves. I
Yeah.
like that.
So it'd be kind of cool to hear, or at least like hopefully interact with people who appreciate that or are also like that. But even then, I also liked what you said, Logan, was like if it's just a conversation with just us three, which kind of is my approach, is like I'm just kind of just talking to you guys because I really enjoy having these conversations. So even me just getting that much out of this is enough. Is good enough for me. But
Yeah.
yeah, if we
Yeah.
want to see how far we could take it, then I'm okay with that. As long as I get this part of it, I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this idea, honestly.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we have something going.
Yeah.
Cool. What do you
We
think,
got
Craig?
something pretty good going for ourselves. Yeah, what the heck, Craig? You didn't say anything the entire time.
Yeah, as usual.
You're still recording, right, Andy?
Yeah, it's just so.
Okay.
Uh,
Because another thing I was gonna say, I was gonna add to that, because I know I
okay.
said that earlier, but I think it'd be cool, even when we reach a point where we know like, okay, this is where the podcast episode is gonna end. Just keep the camera rolling, so to speak, because you never know what we're gonna say afterwards, and it'd be cool to
Yeah.
catch that. You never
Okay.
know when there's gonna be just some crazy blooper or some really, I don't know,
Yeah.
enlightening thing. So yeah, just always, I would say when we do this, just get in the habit of just constantly keeping that camera rolling, or I guess
Okay.
keep Craig rolling.
Craig rolling.
I
Yeah.
want to say something to that. I really appreciate podcasts and I listen to them all the time. And I've kind of gone down certain rabbit holes of looking into particular interviewers and stuff. And I know he's kind of a polarizing guy. I don't know that either of you would like him. And I'm not even going to say that I do, but this guy, Howard Stern, have you guys heard of him?
Oh, I've
Oh,
heard of him.
I don't really listen to any of his stuff, but I know that he
Yeah.
is a person, and I've heard that name.
Yeah, he's one of like the biggest radio people. He was pretty much like the biggest guy in satellite radio, and he made so much money with it, and he like kind of made that platform worthwhile for people. People almost just got satellite radio just to listen to him. He's interviewed people for many years, and I went down the rabbit hole of looking into who he is and why he's successful, and part of it is being really genuine. And by the way, a lot of people do not like him. He's very insulting and vulgar and like a lot of bad things, but
Yeah, that
he
was the
is
sense I kind of got about him.
he is very successful at what he does, and he gets people to open up. And um one thing he said that's something he learned over the years is there's always a point where you say that the podcast is over or the show is over and you keep it rolling. And sometimes when that happens, it'll go like a half hour longer and people will open up more than they did before. Like if you have a guest, like just keep it rolling like you said. And yeah, people will open up and you might have an unexpected thing happen in that time. So
Oh.
Yeah,
yeah.
I like that.
Do you try to like splice it back into the podcast, the main podcast?
Well, I mean,
You could always edit it in a way where, you're just open and honest about it, where during the podcast episode you're saying, "Oh, and later on we actually had a really good conversation and
That's
we
true.
had
Yeah.
the recorder going and so we captured it and here it goes." And then just, play it. And
Hmm.
then when you come back you're like, "Yeah, and that was a conversation that we had, and thanks for listening, and we'll end it there. Goodbye." Something like that. Like,
Yeah.
there's ways to work around that.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah,
Sweet.
true.
Well, I think we had a very successful start to a potentially really great idea.
Yeah,
Agreed.
definitely.
Hmm.
So Adam had said he was quoting Andy like a few days ago, saying that you were interested in doing like a website or something. I don't know. What are your
Oh
thoughts?
yeah. Yeah. If you guys want to do, you'd have to tell me what you want, everything you'd want on a website. But uh, those are pretty. I wouldn't say easy, but I'd feel confident making one for us. I'll show you mine, Logan, just to give you an idea.
Yeah, I mean, if you are interested,
AndyJordan.com.
Oh yeah, AndrewMichaelJordan.com.
Andrew Michael Jordan.
Uh,
That's
Andy
close.
Michael
that's it.
Jordan was taken. Yeah, that's
Oh,
fine. Yeah. Yeah. By the way, if you guys or anybody listening needs a website, I could help. You could get
Oh,
loganstevens.com. You'd have to see if it's available, but
yeah, I gotta get that domain.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
We
But yeah,
gotta
if we
get.
want to do,
We gotta see if Around the Bonfire domain has been taken.
oh yeah. Well, okay. So yeah, I'm thinking though, like maybe a good place to start is SoundCloud or YouTube, just because like there's so much exposure on there. But I would also be okay just
Or
sharing this
both.
with. Sure, we could do both. Have a link to SoundCloud or YouTube. I don't know why I keep thinking SoundCloud. I don't even know if that's a podcasting platform.
Which one?
Yeah.
SoundCloud?
Oh yeah.
Is
Well,
that okay?
y- here's the thing. With podcasts, usually you go on a podcast client and you just search for it. And I think there's like extra stuff you have to do to make your podcast discoverable in that
Oh,
context. And
okay.
so people typically, like I listen to a lot of podcasts, and if somebody says they have a podcast, I go on my client, which is called Pocket Casts, and I search for the title, and it will be there right away. People
Hmm.
would also find it on Spotify and iTunes, I think, but there's a way that you publish a podcast such that it will be on any of those. Like it's discoverable on any of them. Like I don't
I
really
see.
know how it works, but I think have you heard of RSS feeds?
Oh, yeah. I was actually just reading about that.
Oh, I think that is an essential part because I think I tried to listen to one like many years ago
Hmm.
and it involved RSS feeds. It might be part of that like
Okay.
technology or that system.
Let's see. So,
Yeah, and I think just in general during this whole like podcast, during this whole process of, figuring out how to do this podcast, like we're gonna naturally find the right avenues. And I know like I want to do my own research on certain things and just learn more about podcasting in general too on my end that I could share with you guys. So because I feel like you guys are doing all like the background editing stuff, and I don't want to just make you. I don't want to be the guy who just talks, who comes to the conversations, and then makes you guys do all the extra work. So I definitely want to
okay.
learn some stuff, and feel free to teach me things too.
I'll say I
Yeah.
don't see it that way, but if you want to learn, like, I'm not gonna stop you.
Oh, I definitely want to learn. Yeah,
All right. Learn and grow.
learn and grow, baby.
Cool.
See,
Okay. Well,
well, I
I'll look
think
into how. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, well, I think I'll end it there. You guys could keep talking, but
Sure, I'm really hungry. I haven't eaten nothing.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I'm gonna go do that. But yeah, if you guys want to talk anytime during the week, like before next Tuesday, I'd be down.
Dude, same.
Yeah.
You guys gotta
All
come on to Discord more. I'll just send some
What's that?
dumb pictures. Come on to Discord more. I have a bunch of dumb pictures to share.
Oh
Oh, let's do
man.
that. Yeah, I've been wanting like to be able to just hop on Discord like people do. I don't really do that, and
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
really
I've
do
been
that
Yeah.
meaning to.
either. And I think that concept has been so foreign to me, which is why I haven't done it yet, Andy, but
Oh yeah.
I'll
I
keep that
usually
on my
Yeah,
don't.
mind.
I'd say I usually don't, but because like we can't really go anywhere. I just keep it on. I used to do it like with at work. We would just have it open, just sending each other dumb stuff throughout the day. So that's what I imagine it being for us. But it's fine if we don't get to that.
yeah. I mean, yeah, like I'm at my computer a lot, and Discord is in that, the tray of
Oh,
the
okay.
Windows, so it's like I'm always kind of automatically on it. So
All
yeah,
right.
I think it's cool, and it's a really good messaging platform. I just want to say a couple things. I actually wrote a couple things
Oh,
before we
okay.
all go, but um, one thing I wanted to say to Adam is that, or I just wanted to address that Adam throughout this has towards the beginning more, but you were cutting out a lot. Like, do you remember that, Andy? Towards the beginning?
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. So for some reason that was happening, and I'm not exactly sure why, but it would be nice if that could be improved next week somehow. And maybe within this week, I'll try to run my lapel mic to you, and that way you can plug that into your computer and do it from there. Would that be cool, Adam?
Wait, say that again. I would do what?
Um, Basically, I could lend you that lapel mic sometime within the week, and then you could use the Discord on your computer. Would that
Oh,
be
God.
cool?
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like that might be probably a little more reliable than Discord on the phone. I don't know that for sure. We could probably experiment more with the phone, but I was trying earlier to like use it on my phone and use that mic, and it was not easily done. Whereas on the computer, you can specify whichever input and output you want. So um, that might be nice. And then I was also thinking, I bet Andy would know, but like, could it have to do with Wi-Fi, you think, Andy? Like connection?
It might.
Might
Because
be.
what was happening from my end, what it looked like, is it looked like it was like a connection problem, not like an audio problem.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you see the bars? Oh, they took it out. Never mind. Oh yeah, you know at the bottom left it says voice connected.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now and it's green and all levels are good. But what had happened was earlier when I had cut out, that was it still was green and everything, so it looked fine. But when
Mhm.
I exited and then came back in, it started out red and really, really low, and then it got green again
Okay.
after that, and everything was fine. So I think something happened with the connection, and Discord was making it look like it was great, but it actually wasn't. Until I left and came back in, and it showed its true colors, literally and figuratively.
That's true. Possible. I did want to check one thing, Adam. We could do it another time, but
Right.
there was another idea that I had. I won't forget it.
Yeah, I'll just write it down or something.
Okay. I'll put it in the chat.
Oh yeah, put it in the chat.
Yeah, we should default to maybe this server, right? Rather than direct messages with the three of us.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we could work out however way we want, but that's what I think is better to do, to be
Yeah,
on the
I kind of
server.
like to keep things in one place. So like if a link was sent, I would just go to one thing and it would
Hmm.
always be on this server or whatever.
Okay.
Does that
Yeah,
make
and if you
sense,
want to
Adam?
have,
Adam?
Huh?
Oh, does that make sense? Like, always just keeping our messaging on this server rather than in the direct messaging that we had before?
Oh yeah, yeah, that works.
Yeah.
You
Cool.
guys could add more text channels if you want. We don't have to just have general.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like if you
I've
wanted
seen
to
that.
have
And voice channels too, huh?
oh yeah, if you want to just talk to Craig. I don't know how that would. Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, so I'm gonna start using this more. And I think we can
Cool.
do screen share here. Yeah, you could just do screen sharing. We don't need to be in a
Yeah, I
call.
think let me see. So I'll click on, um, general, and then I have this window, and then I go screen share. Go. Am I also sharing my screen?
You might be. I don't know where it would appear.
I think you click on general voice channel.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. Nice.
Wow. That's always crazy when you focus on your own thing and then
Yeah.
it's an infinity of different, displays.
Yeah. It's funny.
Let me turn that off.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a text channel called random and I'll post
Okay.
dumb stuff here. But I think general will be more of the stuff that we need for this podcast.
Yeah.
Or we could have like a podcast. I was also thinking maybe have like a brainstorm channel or some place for us to put some ideas down. But there are
Yeah.
a couple things where I wanted to jot down. I should have, but didn't. I don't know. We could organize this however we want. Maybe another time.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So let's let you guys get some food and but yeah, just wanted to address those couple things. Let's try to get next Tuesday, right? 7, we're gonna meet.
Yeah, I'm
Yep.
down.
Yeah, so we're gonna try to get Adam's audio better, his sensitivity, and make sure there's maybe. Do you think Andy he should just try to get a better internet connection as well? Like that's part of it.
Yeah, why don't we try that? Just close all your
Yeah,
other tabs or your other processes on your phone.
Yeah.
Oh, but you're gonna
I
use your
mean,
computer.
yeah, I'll be using the computer next time, so connectivity should not be a problem.
Yeah, hopefully.
maybe
I
Okay.
I'll
mean,
try
it's
to.
never been a problem before. That like it's only happened when I've used the phone. I mean, this is my first time using the phone, but it's never done that ever before.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah,
Oh,
we'll
cool.
check it again next time.
I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta have some type of mess up on the first one, right? It can't all be
Okay. Sure.
sweet.
All right.
Alrighty, guys. Well, I mean, if our podcast continued to be like this, I think we really do have something going for us. So I mean, even if nothing comes from this, I'm having a lot of fun. I think you guys are having a lot of fun too. I think this is such a fun project to have
Mhm.
like during this quarantine experience. I think I was telling both of you guys at different points that I like wanted to use this time during quarantine to actually be utilizing my free time to be doing something
Mhm.
cool, whether it like benefited me or not. But I wanted to use this time to produce something, and I think this is a really cool outlet to do that, and we get to maintain like keeping in touch with each other, and so it's kind of like killing a couple birds with one stone, all in one, all wrapped up in one project. So I think this is awesome. I'm excited to see where it goes.
That's good. Me too.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
Cool.
Is
All
there
right.
a way, Andy, you once we start the recording, are you able to like send the audio file um into our Discord chat so I could listen to it and
Yeah.
play it back?
Yeah. I'll send you the link that Craig will send me. Do you want me to just stop it now and then I could do that while we have voice?
Sure.
I mean, what? It's fine. I'm gonna hang up right now anyway, so whatever
Okay.
works with you.
All
I'll
right.
sing.
I'm gonna end the Craig and the